Wow. Quiet. The quiet before the service. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our visitors. I understood that we have several folks who are visiting today, and we're really glad of that. It's a great excuse to come in on a rainy day and be around people. This exciting, sunny place where we accept people wherever they are on their journeys, and encouragement to spiritual growth, and acceptance of diversity, and an embrace of the uniqueness and dignity of each individual. So thank you for coming to the Unitarian Universalists of Transylvania County. We have a couple of announcements that have been running. Some of you, if like me, you forgot to put it in your calendar even though you signed up. This afternoon at 4 is Dan Carter's book event, and we are really excited for his book signing event and presentation, so I hope to see you there. The other announcement, and I know you know it because you wouldn't come in the doors here because you were so excited, we have all our auction stuff still out so you can see them, because the auction goes on throughout the week. But I will warn you, if you wanted the Armenian dinner, it's sold out Friday night. All right? And there's some other things that are going fast. I see that the Young's dinner already has a couple of seats signed up, and Gail Myers and Bill Myers' thing has only a couple of spots left. But Christy and I still offering a hors d'oeuvres and desserts event, so you could sign up for that if you missed out on everything else. And there's some other things there. Vicki, I think, is leading a hike through Conisty Trails and to the waterfalls. I've been on that hike. I got a private hike with Vicki, and I can tell you it is worth whatever you need to bid to get it. Go ahead. Artwork, donations, stuff. Go ahead. Buy it all up. All right. There's the big, long commercial. Our board-approved delegates to the General Assembly, we can be represented for up to 5 delegates, either online or in person in Pittsburgh. You are welcome to petition to be one of those delegates. The people who have already alerted us have been accepted, but I think we had 1 slot left. And if you are willing to take on the responsibilities of being a delegate and helping to vote and make decisions at the General Assembly or locally while watching online, let us know. I will be going in person this year, and I think some others are too, but the online option is one I used especially during COVID, and it works too. I'm sure there are many other things I'm supposed to have announced, but I'm not going to. You're going to, you know, we've had people say, well, I want to have everything. Well, on Friday, we email it to you. So keep track of what you get on Fridays. Look at your emails from us, and that'll work out just fine. And if you're a new visitor and you've just signed in your email with us and want the newsletter, then you're going to get all those notices too. We're glad. We're going to transition to our candles of joys and sorrows. And I see that there are some candles already lit here. I will read those. But if there's somebody in this room who has not yet said what they want their candle to represent, I will be glad to call that out. So we have a candle for Sue Null, who had a fall. And she would appreciate cards to her. Check to find her South Carolina address, and we can help you with that if you need help with that. We have a candle for Ed Barrett, who passed away this week. And our hearts go out to Sue and all the family that have been gathering over the past couple of weeks and are still lingering around. For those of you, especially in the men's group, who knew Ed Barrett. Michael Solomon had a joy to share. His daughter Jessica and his sister Michelle are here visiting this week, and we're glad of that. Good. And we have prayers for Hannah Tomarup, who has entered hospice. And this candle's from Michelle and Michael Solomon. Are there others that we wish to lift up, joys or sorrows? Today is Michael Solomon's birthday. Happy birthday, Michael. I'm hearing all sorts of ages being called out here. People at home, you'll just have to miss all that. All right. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Michael. Happy birthday to you.
Someone who's very close to the two of us is finally seeing some hope and light that there is as much love and support as he needs to fight a battle with addiction that he's been fighting a very long time.
So hope. So, okay. Carrie, lighting this candle of hope and light for a friend with addiction, and maybe at the point of seeing some of that. Even just for right now. Yeah. John.
I just wanted to say, in this world of plenty of things to be sad about, plenty of things to be angry about, plenty of things to be, you know who doesn't care? The spring flowers. The blooming trees. They don't care. They're as beautiful as ever. I just noticed some of mine this morning. So take a look at those when you get in the blues.
All right. So we're lighting a candle for the joy of spring flowers who are ignoring the news and blooming anyway. You got it. You got it. Thank you all for sharing your joys and sorrows. It's with the sharing of all of these that we remember that we are a community that weaves together a bit of who we are and what we carry in our hearts. And this is important, and this is a part of our being together. I'm going to turn now to the neighbors closest to me and model without touching with germs. Not that I have any. Worthy recognition. If you would turn to your neighbor and wave or recognize the worth and dignity of each person near you.
I tried to alert you, but I have a surgery tomorrow.
I think we're okay to start, Gypsy.
The opening words today are by Margaret Weiss. The church is not a place, it's a people. The church is not a steeple above the tree-lined streets and cars. Rather, it is a people proclaiming to the world that we are here for the work of healing and justice. The church is not walls built stone upon stone, held together by mortar, but rather person, linked with person, linked with person. All ages and genders and abilities. A community built on the foundation of reason, faith, and love. The church is not just a set of doors open on Sunday morning, but the commitment day after day and moment after moment. But of our hearts creaking open the doors of welcome to the possibility of new experiences and radical welcome. The church is not simply a building, a door, a pew. The church is the gathering together of all the people and experiences, and fear and love and hope in our resilient hearts. Gathering however we can to say to the world, welcome, come in, lay down your heartache, and pick up hope and love. For the church is us, each and every one of us together, a beacon of hope to this world that so sorely needs it. And now, please join us in our opening hymn, number 1, May Nothing Evil Cross the Door. The words will be on the screen. The chalice reading is be read in unison. The words will be on the screens. The words are by Martha Kirby Capo. Through the week this chalice abides, cupped and silent. Softly it gleams in a dimly lit room, complete unto itself. Today we come together as a community of faith, joyful and free. Our individual energies combine to spark the flame of truth. May we each draw strength for the other, and like the chalice, may we be bathed in the fire of commitment
to social justice, equity, and peace. Thank you, Gypsy. I have words of wisdom. Now, there is No death in this story, but it's a hard one to hear, okay? This is from when I was a kid. Now, I don't know about you, but I sometimes needed somebody to talk to who really listened and cared about me. And that was our dog. Now, she was a medium-sized dog. You pet the dog, and the dog would just love being petted. Whenever company would come over, that dog would jump all over company and show them how much she was glad to see them. That dog would steal my hat when I was riding on my sled. That dog would just run up next to me and grab the hat off my head and go running off with it, even as I was going 100 miles an hour down the hill. That dog was somebody fun. That dog was somebody who taught me a lot about love. That dog taught me a lot about tolerance too, because, you know, sometimes you don't want to be licked all over your face. When I was little, dogs and children were allowed to roam free. That's where we grew up, kind of in the country, in the woods. I mean, how many of you remember that? You could go out into the woods, you could go and play, you could go over to neighbors' houses. You remember that, just all over. And the dogs could do that too. Well, the dogs of the neighborhood would follow us around when we were playing. And my friends and I, we went out and we went playing out, and we were alongside the road, and not many cars came along the roads back then, but sometimes they would. And unfortunately, our dog was in the road when a car came around a blind curve, and she was hit by that car. And the person stopped right away and was so upset, and we ran over to the dog, and the dog was shaking and scared. But she was alive. Now, she had dirt all over her nice coat from where the tire had rubbed its dirt right off on her. That's how close she was to being completely run over. And so we hugged her and we kissed her, and she seemed fine. And she then ran away, and the driver said, What happened? I said, our dog's okay. The dog's okay. And the driver, she said, but the dog just ran into the woods. And we said, well, that's because that's the direction to our house. That's the shortest way to our house. The dog was running home. And we could understand that, being upset and hurt and stressed and wanting to go home. Now, this is where I had to be taught a lesson later, though. While we helped the woman who was so upset about hitting the dog and reassuring her that the dog was okay, we really hadn't done everything we could have done for the dog. And so when we got home, my brother and I, my parents asked, what happened? Our dog came running home and was so upset. And we said, oh, yeah, she got hit by a car. Our parents we needed to know that right away. We needed to take care of the dog. Well, the dog was really fine. We were right that the dog was fine, but the dog was not fine in her heart. She was so upset. And I think from that point on, the dog was very careful not to be in a road. It was good to have had the chance to have learned from something bad, both for the dog and the dog's safety, but for me. Because I've learned since then about any mammals, and people are mammals just like dogs are mammals. We're animals. That sometimes when we get so hurt and upset, just because we get up and we say we're physically okay doesn't mean we're emotionally okay. And we need to run home, and we need to know a place where people will care. And sometimes maybe we can't even talk about it. But I hope that all of us will reach out to one another and not do what I did and let somebody just keep on being upset. We need our hugs, and we need to know that we're safe. That's our tough story. Why did I tell a tough story? Because I know that already in all of our lives, we have had times when we were scared, and we have been sad, and we have wanted to know a safe place to be and safe arms to hug us. I would like for this church to be part of that for everyone here. To know that you can be safe, to know that people care and they want to know when you're upset. That's our lesson for this morning. If there's anything from what I just said for any of you that you want to talk to me later about and say, that was really hard to hear, or this is what it meant to me. I'm one of those people, like I said, I've learned. I need to know that we have to spend time with one another when we've had trauma in our lives. Let's sing the children to their classes. Peace be with you and our blessing. Peace be with you and our blessing. Peace be with you and our blessing as you leave us now. I think you've heard just about everything I could say about what happens next in the service. I mean, ushers just wait for the right words to start passing baskets, and some of you have been here enough that you know to reach into your pockets already. So I don't know what more I can say. I mean, it's just a part of being a giving, loving human being to say we put our money where our mouth is. I've already said that 100 different ways. The Children's Place, you know, we're talking about an organization that really is reaching out to children in trauma or maybe in a situation where they need an extra bit of hugs. That's where you slip the money into the envelopes. This is the last weekend to do that as part of our worship time together. Because kids do deserve a safe, nurturing, and healthy home environment. I don't know what else to say, and I'm not even sure I have to say anything at all because you know what to do. So just give generously. We'll now receive the morning offering. Did I see one person still waving they want to make a donation? There you go. We will pause and get the last minute donations. Thank you, Dick. Thank you, Susan. What is given in love, we receive with great joy, and we say, thank you. I invite you to take a deep breath, wiggle, relax, settle yourself in for a time of prayer and meditation. Spirit of love and life, we who are gathered this day come into this space remembering that we are not alone. We pray, we yearn for, and we commit to offering open, warm, loving embraces to each one of us in our times of trauma, our times of sorrow. In particular, this morning, our hearts are reaching out to South Carolina, to Sue Null after her fall, or to Sue Barrett and family and all who knew Ed Barrett, who passed away this week. Our embrace goes out to those known by others who may be struggling with addiction and needing hope and light. We have prayers for Hannah Tamarup, who's in hospice. We have prayers for all who we know in this congregation may be facing medical events and surgeries and recoveries. In particular, this morning, Virginia Watkins, we will keep in our prayers for surgery tomorrow. And we embrace the joys as well, the joys of visiting family, the joys of spring flowers, the joys of major milestones in life, including birthdays such as Michael's, and all in this congregation who may be celebrating in secret so that no one sings to them. For we know in this moment that not all sorrows or joys have been lifted up in our prayers. Our open ears are there to remember that the human condition means that when we look in the eyes of another, we may not yet see everything, but with time, perhaps, and love, we may know the full extent of the lives of others. This we hold in our minds and in our hearts, along with those things yet unspoken, for a time of silence. For all those known and unknown, remembered and forgotten, and all the names of the helpers of humankind, we say, Amen. Blessed be. I invite you to remain seated while we sing hymn number 123. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind. The reading this morning is from the back of our hymnal. It is from Eileen Carpelese, and it's called A Place of Meeting. I'm using it way out of context here, but I think the message still fits. Out of wood and stone, out of dreams and sacrifice, the people build a home. Out of the work of their hands and hearts and minds, the people fashion a symbol and a reality. May this house be truly a place of meeting, meeting one another with its warmth and joy and openness, meeting one another in courage and love and trust. May all who enter here trust one another so surely that they dare to share the deep fires that burst into anger, as much as the sweet spring waters that swell into laughter. The slow erosion of wounded tears as much as the soaring song. May these walls know silence as 100 hearts search inward, each for their own small spark of hope that might otherwise be snuffed out in the noise. May these rafters hear the voice of the child as surely as that of the orator, and the sound of the lute, the clack of the typewriter, the swish of a broom, and know that all are as holy as the shout of 1,000,000 stars. May the rain fall lightly on this house, the sun shine warmly, the winds blow softly, and bless it as a place of joy and peace. I'm going to be preaching about our values and our voice. How if we take a deep breath, center ourselves, and draw from our spiritual depths, we're all able to bring the best of our values into our lives. And I'm going to start out, I think, with a really bad joke. I tested it on Gypsy earlier this week, and she said, "No, that's a bad joke. You're going to have to warn people." And I'll tell you why it's so bad afterwards. Okay, so there's some religious leaders attending a community workshop on fire safety. The firefighter leading the presentation says the most important thing is for people to exit safely in a quick and orderly manner and not trying to save any items. Now the Catholic priest says, "I can't in good conscience do that. If I've blessed the wine and host, it's sacred, and I would gather it up, and only then would I leave the encroaching smoke and flames." And the rabbi speaks up next, saying, "The Torah scroll must be saved. I would stay behind and be sure I had it, and would then navigate the flames and smoke to get out." And the Unitarian Universalist minister says, "I'd grab the coffee urn and the photocopier." Now, what makes this a bad joke is because it, in some ways, is trying to say, look, aren't these folks smart enough to get out of the building? And we don't want to make fun of folks who say, but there's something sacred here. And we know for them that what they hold true and valuable and sacred is important. But the readings that I was doing today was about how our connections and our relationship to one another, the worth and value of one another, is what's sacred. Why did the Unitarian Universalist minister want to save the photocopier and the coffee urn? Because these are the ways in which we express our relationship with one another. Because it's around coffee time that we're doing the real connection. I mean, yeah, we've got the part in the service now where we kind of bow to each other and oh, you're here. but it's around our tea and coffee and standing around that we're building and rebuilding our relationship with one another. We check in with one another. We know what traumas have happened to one another. And the photocopier is about as out of date as the reading that said the clack of typewriters. But its meaning in the context of the really bad joke was saying, but this is where we share the news of one another. That's where the candles of sharing would have been written down for people to know who missed the service. Or that's where the life of the community and the picnics and the events and the major milestones of people's lives would have been written down and shared. So now maybe it's not so much of a joke to realize that Unitarian Universalists might find sacred the ways in which we are able to be connected to one another. We're living in a world, I have to say this in the movie voice, we're living in a world full of danger and turmoil, and there's only one person who can save us all, and that's your minister. Or your priest, or your rabbi, or your guru, or whoever else, okay? All right, so that the point of this is, in our world, John, I liked your tribute to the flowers this morning and the candle to that. In our world, we are constantly finding stress in the news. Okay, I'll say it in I language. We learn this in men's group. Okay, we'll talk in I language. Not, you know this. No, I know this. I know I had to dial back on reading the news because it was getting upsetting. And I knew I couldn't preach the sermon unless I backed off from it and wrote what I think was one of my weakest newsletter columns last Friday about having to give up on news and instead trying to connect with people. Because when I'm tied up in the news, I'm just too stressed. I think there's a lot of language out there that's kind of like we have to have everything perfect. We have to have everything right. You cannot believe what this movie star just said. You cannot believe what these legislators just did. You cannot believe, and tune in for more. The news has become rubbernecking bait, clickbait, constant anxiety and raised trauma, repetitive again and again. I mean, the story that I told this morning, and I noticed it went straight to the heart of one of our kids, and probably to some people here who kept a poker face, but it was hard for them. It goes to the point in which we are empathetic and we know pain and we can see that in one another. But if we're put into a constant state of fear, we're put into a place in which we are not in touch with the holy, and we're not in touch with that empathy, and we're not being the full human being animals that we are. I don't know what it is about being in the South. I didn't grow up here, but I have been asked what's my favorite Bible verse. So I had to come up with a favorite Bible verse. And I had one, I liked the one in Corinthians, and the greatest of these is love, and I read that at weddings. But I found one the other day on a greeting card, and I thought that would make a great bumper sticker. 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7. Now all of you are going to pull out your app with the Bible on it, and you're going to look up and you're going to see what it says in it. But if you don't, that's okay. I'm going to read it to you anyway. From the King James Version, and then with some other things in parentheses from other translations. For God hath not given us the spirit of fear or dread, but of power or virtue or fortitude or vigor, and of love and of sound mind, or self-control or self-restraint, or wisdom, soberness, discipline, sound judgment, wise discretion, or reasonableness. or a note from the Amplified Bible, which I'd never heard of the Amplified Bible before, abilities that result in a calm, well-balanced mind and self-control. That's my favorite. At least for now, that's my favorite. In the midst of everything that is getting me so agitated, I have to go back to 2 Timothy 1 through 7 and say, oh, God didn't give us a spirit of agitation and fear, but something of love and a mind that could have reasonableness and self-control. Yeah, I want to have that on everybody's bumper sticker and then have people like, oh, sitting at a traffic light. What is that reading? What is that reading? And maybe not have quite as much road rage. That's what I would like. And I liked, we had Martha Kirby Capo's chalice lighting. And she talked about justice and peace. Okay, that word peace, what does that mean? Now, Martha's writings, she says, are deeply informed by Henry David Thoreau and a reverence for the rhythms of nature. Sometimes we just need the chance to go out and observe nature instead of the nastiness that humans are doing to each other. Sometimes we need to realize a life is going on. There were some suggestions that I read online. Like vagal types of stuff. If you have a body core imbalance, something going on in the nerves, where you stand up and you go down, or you're getting really stressed and you got to take your blood pressure and see how bad it is. The advice is sit for a moment and take 3 deep breaths, really deep breaths. That's stimulating that nerve sense in your body, and it really calms things down. When somebody says take a deep breath, it really makes a difference. Now, I read something online, discovering the importance of the polyvagal theory. And no, your minister cannot verify that everything he reads on the internet is true. Your minister perked up at this section. Here are some suggestions. Focus on the present moment. Engage the sense of smell with an essential oil that brings a positive association or feeling. Reestablish connection by calling a friend or snuggling with your pet or loving self-touch. Express feelings through talking, writing, drawing, or movement. Focus on your breath as a fine-tuning mechanism to regulate that nervous system. Engage in mindfulness practice such as meditation or therapeutic yoga, and allow yourself to play. Oh, wow. I was going to go play in the woods with a bunch of folks from a meetup group that I saw online, and they said they canceled it this morning because it was too drippy. I am not going to get my play. And I missed both my chorus rehearsals last week, and I didn't get to sing. But we all need some chances for that. Psychology Today pointed us in a different direction. The December 2022, they were writing about a new study of over 600 people in Thailand that held themselves to really high ethical standards, observing Buddhism's 5 precepts, and how they experience much less stress, slightly lower levels of neuroticism, and fewer depressive systems. So the goal was to look at the 5 precepts of Buddhism. Not killing any living creature, not stealing or taking what's not given, not telling lies, and abstaining from divisive speech and gossip. Oh. Definitely need the 5 precepts in America right now. Let's not have the divisive speech and gossip. Not using intoxicants that cloud clear thinking. and abstaining from sexual misconduct or abuse. They explained in the study that the observance of the precepts serves as a preliminary, this is a direct quote, preliminary foundation to refine higher virtues development and the most important step on spiritual journey. So some of this also fed into other Buddhist teachings they found, for generosity, for tolerance and freedom from hatred, from truthfulness, loving kindness and benevolence, from equanimity. It also was connected to Buddha's Noble Eightfold Path. Right mindfulness, right thought, right speech, right action, right understanding, right livelihood, right effort, right concentration. By having a spiritual practice and building on an ethical basis the precepts, these folks had a way of disciplining themselves in ways that didn't get them caught up, didn't get them tied in knots, literally, figuratively. I mean, some of you know that, literally being tied up inside and what that can do to your bodily systems. For me, Unitarian Universalism and our principles of loving and respecting people and our environment and walking with each other on our spiritual path, these are precepts that we follow as well. I was admittedly never very good with Buddhist practice, even on retreat. I had monkey mind. And I couldn't stay concentrating on being empty for anything more than a millisecond. And the teachings are that, okay, for that millisecond you succeeded. And that means if in a whole hour you had a few milliseconds, then you succeeded each one of those times. Now, that is far more forgiving than most of the righteous language that we may have been taught in religion. Oh, you failed. Go ahead and now whip yourself. It's like, no. Go ahead, empty your mind again. Oh, okay. Notice that you didn't empty your mind. Now try it again. It's like, accept each success rather than flail yourself for each time it went away. I think there's something in Buddhism that is a great lesson for those of us who may have heard other religious messages. Human beings are always going to lose concentration on their values and what's right. Human beings are going to forget 2 Timothy 1:7. Have a mind of reasonableness. Human beings are going to forget. And then we have to notice that and turn our way and go back again. Notice I was using we have to do that because I'm saying I have to do that. There's not a word in this sermon that I wasn't preaching to myself. And in that way, I hope that I have some form of empathy and understanding for each of us gathered in this place. All those readings about how this church isn't the stones that build it or the rafters or any of that. It's us. It's us living our values. It's us trying for an hour a week to be a little less grumpy around other people. It's us listening, embracing, breathing deep, and having some trust. I think that's what it's really about. Thank you for listening. I invite you to join in a totally unfamiliar hymn that just fits so well. Hymn number 1058, Be Ours a Religion. We're going to sing it through twice. John, will you play the melody through once first, and then we'll read the words on the screen? I invite you to stand as you're willing and able and sing as you're able this hymn. Thank you. Because our religion, which like sunshine goes everywhere, its temple, all space, its shrine, the good heart, its creed, all truth, its ritual words of love. Because our religion, which like sunshine goes everywhere, its temple, all space, its shrine, the good heart, its creed, all truth, its ritual works of love. Our benediction is from Pat. You tribe Lichty, go out now with hearts and minds and hands renewed to the world that is waiting for you. Go out to that world to bring your gentle touch to those in pain. Go out to feed and house those in need. Go out to speak truth to those with power. Go out with courage to do the work which calls you. Go out now with your passion and faith to change the world. Blessings on all of you.